if you're a mum, you are more than likely to have suffered from a lot of sleep deprivation in your time. And as single mums, this is often compounded because we don't have any support to help with those sort of breaks in the night when the children are either hungry or needing something. I'm really excited today to be joined by someone that might be able to help, Dr. Michael Breus, who is America's sleep doctor. He's appeared on numerous TV shows from Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Oprah, and of course today the Wellbeing Examiner show, so he's reached the pinnacle of his career, hasn't he? He's also a diplomat of the American Academy, the American Board of Sleep Medicine, and he's one of only 163 clinical psychologists with his distinction and credentials. So we're really honoured to have him with us today, and let's hope that he can answer some of the important questions that we have about sleep and help us to get a better night's sleep. Good morning, Dr. Breus. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, fantastic. The first question, Dr. Breus, is why is sleep so important?
Well, it turns out that sleep affects every organ system and every disease state. There literally isn't anything that the human body requires more than sleep, except for maybe water. You can go 3 days without water. You can go 7 days without sleep. You can go 30 days without food. So we know that it affects literally every aspect of life, whether it's your thinking, your physical nature, your reaction time, literally everything.
Right. And so how do we know how much sleep we actually need as well?
Well, that's an individual question. I've been a 6.5 hour sleeper almost my entire life. My wife needs 8. So people are very different. What I oftentimes am having people do is do an exercise I call the bedtime calculator.
Right.
So we know that the average sleep cycle is approximately 90 minutes long. And we know that most people have 5 of those. So 5 times 90 is 450. Divided by 60 to give us hours equals roughly 7.5 hours. So most people's wake up time turns out to be socially determined, right? So work, school, kids, what have you. But we usually know when we're waking up. It's our bedtime that seems to have a lot of variability in it.
Right.
So if you take your wake up time and you count backwards for 7.5 hours and you turn that into your new bedtime, that's the start of a good experiment. Right. So let me tell you what happened. So I did this. So I get up at 6:30. So I went to bed at 11. And when I went to bed at 11, I woke up at 5:30, not 6:30. Right. So then the next day I did it again. I went to bed at 11, woke up at 5:30. I don't want to be up at 5:30. I don't like getting up in the morning.
No.
So I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed at midnight. I went to bed at midnight and I woke up at 6:30. So I figured out what my personal sort of time zone is for sleep. So now I go to bed at midnight, I wake up at 6:30 and I'm just fine. Everybody out there can kind of do that little experiment for themselves. It'll take you about 7, maybe 10 days to figure it out. But once you figured it out, you kind of figure out what your zone is for better sleep.
So the key is to start 7.5, give yourself 7.5 hours. So whenever you get up, so if it's 7 o'clock in the morning, go back 7.5 hours and then try it out and see if you wake up on time, or you don't even need an alarm clock to wake yourself up by the time you finished.
Yeah.
That's
great. And that's the goal, is to not have an alarm clock by the time it's all said and done.
Okay. And is the goal also, in terms of having enough sleep, to actually feel refreshed during the day? Is that what we're aiming for?
I mean, at the end of the day, yes, that's what we want. But there's a lot of factors that come in that can be involved in how refreshed or energetic we feel. It could have to do with our vitamin D production, how much vitamin B we've had during the day. But one thing is for sure, you're never going to feel refreshed if you don't have a good night's sleep.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, and talking of that, of course, mothers in particular, and single mums are commonly sleep deprived because they either have to wake the children in the night, or feed the children in the night, or get woken in the night. So how can mothers make up for lost time?
Well, so it's hard. This is not an easy situation. It's not like I'm going to wave my magic wand and poof, all the mothers out there, single moms out there are going to get a great night's sleep. No. There's a couple things, though, that you want to think about. So one of the things that I tell people that they can think about is the idea of, if you are by yourself with 1 or 2 or 3 children, is number one, while it may feel like it's an important factor, housework is not necessarily an important factor at this point. Once your kids go down and sleep, don't run
Yes.
around the house and try cleaning the house for the next 3 hours. Okay.
Okay.
Number one, it's going to be too energetic, too stimulating. It's going to be very difficult for you to go to sleep afterwards.
Okay.
Number two, it's not really as necessary as you might think it is. It's more important for you to get in bed and to
Hmm.
get your rest than it
Okay.
is to worry about whether or not your house is clean or the
Of
laundry is
course.
done or what have you.
Sure.
So I tell moms to sleep when their children sleep,
Okay.
um, especially if they have young ones like babies.
Hmm.
Because when babies are napping, again, not the time to try to get a whole bunch of things done.
No, no, no.
More so the
Sure.
time for you to catch up on some rest.
But does that
And just to
so I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, does that include when the baby's napping during the day or just at night?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, during the day as well.
Okay.
If you want to nap, if you're tired and you
Hmm.
feel like, wow, I could really use a nap, take it.
Okay.
Um, Over caffeinating is one of the biggest problems that I see with single mothers is they just start drinking the coffees
Yes. Yeah.
all day long to try and
Hmm.
keep themselves awake. And then they're sleep deprived, and so their
Hmm.
brain wants energy food, and so they're reaching for muffins and candy bars
Yeah.
and cookies, things like that, because
Okay.
it sort of satisfies that craving. That
Sure.
craving is actually coming from sleep deprivation. It's not that your body needs a Snickers bar or whatever.
Hmm.
It's that your body has a high level of cortisol and it wants to calm your brain down. The
Right.
easiest way to calm your brain down is with high fat, high sugar foods because it produces serotonin, which helps you relax a little bit more.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
lots of better ways to deal with
Uh-huh.
things than snacking on candy bars.
I was going to say, can you give us an example of what you might choose to eat then at that moment where you're really reaching for a Snicker bar or something else?
Well, I mean, I think at that point, number one, drink a glass of water, especially
Okay.
if you're trying to lose weight. A
Hmm.
lot of people mistake being thirsty for being hungry. So they
Right.
think they're hungry, but in fact, they're actually thirsty. So the first thing
Hmm.
I always tell people to do is if you are trying to lose weight or at least maintain weight, the second you start to feel really hungry, go ahead and drink a glass of water and put something in your stomach to just kind of settle that feeling down, number one.
Okay.
Number two, you want to have healthy snacks available to you throughout your daytime. So whether that's a bag of, carrot sticks and celery sticks because it's all about convenience, right?
Sure.
And so the second you get hungry, it's whatever is available and close
Hmm.
by or the vending machine. Whereas if you have nice healthy snacks, whether that's, unsalted, raw nuts, whether that's,
Hmm.
carrot sticks and celery sticks, whether it's an apple, whether it's some peanut butter, whatever it
Hmm.
happens to be,
Okay.
having all of that available to you, whether you're at work or at home, makes it much, much easier for
Okay.
you to be able to, eat healthy when you're in that kind of fight or flight. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm
Sure.
gonna,
Okay.
die thing.
And what about if maybe, for example, you feel exhausted all day, you get to bed and you can't sleep and your child's
Right.
asleep. Are there any tips on how to help, induce sleep without reaching for necessary a prescription pill?
Yeah, so this is a fairly common problem, although I'll be
Hmm.
honest with you, for most of the mothers, the single mothers that I talk to, they rarely have a hard time falling asleep
Okay.
because they're so exhausted.
Yes.
What they do have, however, have a hard time is they wake up in the middle of the night.
Right.
And sometimes they can't fall back to sleep because their brain starts going and they start thinking, oh gosh, what have I got to do tomorrow? And I got to get here and I
Sure.
got to get there, all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
it's there's quite a bit to it. But if they do wake up in the middle of the night, couple of quick tips. Number
Hmm.
one, do not look at the clock.
Okay.
Um,
That's
you
tough.
immediately do the mental math and you say it's 3:30, I got to be up at 6:30, I only have 3 hours left to
Mm.
sleep,
Hmm.
and then you're trying to force yourself to go to sleep, which
Yes.
never ever works.
Okay.
Um, so I'm usually telling people, number one, don't look at the clock. Number two, if you don't have to go to the bathroom, don't.
Right.
By going from a lying down position to a seated position to a standing position, you
Hmm.
actually increase your heart rate.
Oh,
Your
okay.
heart rate has to be at 60 or below in order
Right.
to enter into a state of unconsciousness. So
Okay.
it's really better to lie in bed and stay in bed. Now, don't get
Hmm.
me wrong. If you got to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. But if you
Hmm.
do have to go to the bathroom, have strategically placed night lights, so one along the way to get there and one in
Hmm.
the bathroom, because you don't want to turn that switch on. As
No.
soon as you turn
No.
the light on in the bathroom, you turn off the
Hmm.
melatonin faucet in your brain, and that's
Hmm.
not good.
That's really
So
interesting because in with not in the example particularly of parenting, but I've often heard the advice if you can't sleep, get up. But what you're saying is the opposite. Try and keep everything as calm and dim as possible in the
exactly.
house.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, historically, we used to say if you can't fall asleep in 15 to 20 minutes, get out of bed.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem is most people get out of bed and they go watch television, they go into another room, they turn on the lights, they do all the things that's wrong.
Yeah.
If people could get up and just stay in a dimly lit room, maybe reading something or meditating or doing something to help
Okay.
calm them down, that would be great. But
Yeah.
99% of people don't do
I
that.
know. And that, I guess that includes your mobile phones as well, anything digital because of the light coming
Absolutely.
through.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we touch briefly on, you mentioned melatonin. There is a supplement, melatonin. Is there a place for that in terms of helping sleep or at all?
There is. I like melatonin, but only in certain occasions. So
Okay.
melatonin is great for jet lag.
Right.
Melatonin is great for shift work.
Okay.
Melatonin works well for what we call social jet lag, where you stay up late Friday, sleep in Saturday, stay up late Saturday, sleep in Sunday.
Right.
And melatonin is good for people over age about 55 because we know there's a natural decline in melatonin production at that time.
Okay.
Um, but generally speaking, melatonin is not a sleeping pill. Okay, melatonin is not a sleep initiator, it's a sleep regulator. So it
Right.
turns out there are two separate systems in the brain, one that initiates sleep and then one that maintains sleep. The
Right.
maintained sleep one is directly affected by melatonin production. The one that makes you fall asleep has very little to do with melatonin. It has more to do with something called adenosine, which is a
Ah.
product that your brain creates after your cells eat some glucose. Adenosine is one of the things that comes out.
Okay.
Um, so taking melatonin just before bed will have very little effect
Right.
because that's not what it's meant to do,
Okay.
number one. Number two, 95% of melatonin is sold in an overdosage format. The appropriate dose is somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 milligrams. So
Right.
people need to look for that dose in particular. Um, and number three, it takes roughly 90 minutes to reach plasma concentration levels so that the melatonin is actually effective. So you
Okay.
need to take it an hour and a half before you want to go to sleep.
Okay.
So if people follow those guidelines, it'll be far
That'll be
more
okay.
effective.
And as you say, it's a sleep regulator, so it's really used for jet lag. It's not used for sleep deprived mothers, for example, that want to
Exactly.
change their situation. Okay,
Right.
that's great. Okay, before I let you go, can you let people know how they can find out more about you and more, have further information about
Sure.
sleep?
Absolutely. If people want to, they can check out my website, which is thesleepdoctor.com.
Okay,
And if you want to look at my new book is called thepowerofwhen.com.
excellent. Thank you so much. Well, it's been delightful having you on the show today, and thank you so much for joining us and giving us the time.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I hope to be back again soon.
Super. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
All right. Sweet dreams.
Well, I hope you found that as fascinating as I did, and you've got a few tips and tricks to try. I think one of them is sort of working out how much sleep you really need by going to bed 7.5 hours before you're due to get up, and working out your natural clock and how much sleep you need by how you feel when you get up. I know it's not easy as single mums when you have to get up in the night, and that's why it's important to rest when your children rest. Forget about the housework. It can wait to another day. It really can. More important is your sleep and your health, and if you're in a better state, so will your children be, because you'll be better able to look after them. But if you've got any more questions, please email me. As usual, it's harriet@wellbeingexaminer.com, and I'll leave that information underneath here so you know how to get in contact with me. And one more small favour, please can I ask you to subscribe to this channel. The button is either side of this video. It really helps. It will really help me to be able to do this for you and make more videos. And give me a thumbs up as well if you enjoyed this. And any feedback and any more questions will be gratefully received. And in the meantime, please sleep well and be happy, healthy single mums.